call to order the meeting of Monday, August the 12th. If the clerk will please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Beeden. Here. Councilmember Harris. Here. Councilmember Pemberton.
Here.
Councilmember Warden.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of July the 8th and the special meeting of July 22nd. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashford. Is there a second?
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there any additions or deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are as submitted. We have 3 presentations tonight. If the clerk would please read the first one.
Police Chief Platzer will introduce the city's 2 new police officers, Jeff Mueller and Joshua Shad.
Mayor Rupp, City Council, City Manager Freed. Just like to introduce 2 of our new officers that just started here within the last month, Officer Mueller and Officer Shad that just started today. So Officer Jeff Mueller, he comes to us with over 10 years of police experience. He moved up to St. Clair County with his wife and 2 children. He's been in his FTO training for about a month now, and he's got about a couple more months and he'll be ready for solo patrol in October. Officer Joshua Shad comes to us from Ohio. He is a U of M fan, so no Buckeye here.
We won't hold that against him.
Completed his education in Ohio. He just recently graduated from the Oakland Police Academy, and he'll be starting his FTO process with Officer Adriana Minesberg on Friday. If everything goes well, he will be on his own sometime in November. So as of right now, we are at full staff.
Very nice.
But in September 1st, when Detective Martin officially retires, we'll be down 1, but we're still moving forward in the hiring process. So I just wanted to introduce both of these officers to you tonight and welcome them to our city and our police department.
Thank you. Welcome to the city.
Thank you. Welcome to the city, okay? All right. Thank you, and welcome to the city. Thank you. Okay. Welcome to the city. Welcome to the city.
Welcome and thank you. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you for the introductions. We'll move on to number 2 presentation.
Beautification Commission members will recognize the 2019 Yard of the Year winners.
Good evening. We'd like to thank Mayor Rep and the City Council for this opportunity that you give us to recognize the talented gardeners of Port Huron. I'm Stephanie Ramos. I happen to be the Commission Member Chair for Yard of the, and also the head of the Yard of the Year Committee. This commission is comprised of a 9-member board and is dedicated to taking care of many of the beds around this city. We actually have about 35 of them. And this is our 34th year of existence. It was created in 1985. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Beautification Commission members that are in attendance tonight. Would they please stand as I read their names? Alfonso Amos, Nicole Hutchinson, Donna Kelly, Julia Price, Mary Jo Edson, Kathy Hull, Diane Horn, Donna Kelly, Laura Luttrell, Carolyn McNeil. Many of these members have worked and been on this committee or this commission for more than 10 years. The City Council has appropriated $3,300 a year to help assist us with purchasing of flowers and helping with this Yard of the Year program. We have a tree recognition program. We have a Steve Revnick Award, a number of other things. And we appreciate this allotment of money and funds to help kind of make people shine in this committee, in this city. Members are volunteers. They plant beds, they prepare them, they weed them, they maintain them, they pull them out, they enlarge them. They make sure they get water. They do all sorts of things to make this place a little bit better. The tree recognition program is a way in which individuals can have a tree planted in the city as a memory for someone that they love, or to recognize an individual that they think was a standout in Port Huron. And finally, the Bar of the Year contest is an event where we go through, have people look at their neighbors' yards, look at their own yards, and say, hey, I think we've made this place a little bit prettier, and just get a little recognition that way. So what we would like to do is to look at the Yard of the Year. It's been 30 years, 1988, so it's about 4 years after our commission was created that we started this. It was to encourage people and businesses to beautify their property. The areas are judged by master gardeners and locally, and they look for specific things such as design, overall appearance, neatness, the plants that are used, just the general aesthetic of the place. The judges are impartial and good at what they do. They follow a point system, and they judge only the front of the properties. Addresses are given to the judges without them knowing who the owner is, so it's kind of blind. I've had the pleasure of viewing many of these winning yards because my husband or my son take the pictures at the end. And I really enjoy seeing the variety of the yards and the different plantings. It's amazing what we have in our city. We divide our city into 3 districts, though. The North District, which is the north city limits to the Blue Water Bridge. The Central District, which is the Blue Water Bridge to the Griswold Street. And then Central District, which is Griswold Street to the southern city limits. At this point, 627 awards have been presented since we started this contest. This includes today's recipients. We have recognized 385 residential and 242 commercial businesses, and this year there were 47 nominations. Residential winners will receive a coveted wooden tulip, and the commercial winners will have a plaque in which they can place in their business. If somebody has won before, instead of giving them a tulip, we happen to add a leaf to their tulip to acknowledge their accomplishment. And if it's possible, we would like to now announce the winners and ask if an individual or the representative is here tonight that they come forward and accept their award. So up above, behind you, I know we've done this many times, but behind you are the pictures. This is the Yard of the Year winners on the north end. We have Robert and Ann Beeden of Catalpa Court. They get a leaf. They have won before. They always have a nice yard. And as I said, they get a leaf. It looks like this, 2019. They add to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The next is Carl and Brenda Miller. They're on Monticello Drive. And this year, they end up with a tulip. Thank you so much. And then on Armour Street, we have another repeat, Kathleen Andre.
Yeah, they're two sides.
She's got her. That was our North End winners. Did I do that backwards? No. Okay. In the central area, we have Water Street, 1041, Daniel and Janet Moran.
Thank you very much.
Oops, sorry, must have hit it twice. Did I do it wrong?
I think you need to go back one.
I'm sorry.
That's who just-
That was theirs, I'm sorry. They put it out of order. I had it in order. I gave it to them in order, I promise. The next one would be Alan and Terry Jowett.
No.
tell you, theirs is as neat as a pin and neater than you can guess. If you don't know where the house is, it's right behind Joette Funeral Home on Lapeer. And there was a gentleman out there from his funeral home making sure everything was picked up off the grass when we were out there taking pictures. And then we have Douglas Bishop from Wall Street. And he is a returning winner. And that leads us to the south end. And we have Mills, Donald and Judy Mills. Here, this is their first time winning, and they would end up with a tulip. And then we have Noel Cerez from Thornhill Street.
Oh, wow.
They're also a new recipient to this. And then finally, we have a returnee from Military Street, Troy and Mary Clark. Not only do we look at the houses, but we also look at commercial properties, and so we give out awards to the commercial properties. Again, 3 of them. So this year, we like to see that we have a return from the Women's Life Insurance Society. There we go. We have Joette Funeral Home.
You can clean it out.
And finally, we have the First United Methodist Church, which always is beautiful. I have yet to see a year in which it's not blooming. Also, we have an award called the Steve Revnick Award. Now, the person who has received this award is not here tonight. She's on vacation with her family. But her name is Nicole Kaczynski. And what you do to get a Steve Revnick Award is basically you end up helping make this city prettier without being on our committee, without making any flash or bang or joining any group. You're just an everyday citizen doing their little part for this city. And what Nicole does is she lives on the south end, and she goes around, she collects all the trash in that area. She just walks down, spends a couple hours a day going up and down the streets, collecting trash and cleaning up little bits and things. So she's been doing this for a number of years. Nobody knows that we have somebody like that, and so we thought it was about time we pointed that out. So when Nicole gets back from vacation, we will be giving her her award. And so this concludes our annual award program. We'd like to thank the judges, the photographer, and the clerk's office especially for their assistance, and for, of course, the city council for giving us this time to highlight some of our citizens and what they do for this city. As a reminder, the beautification committee, though, is always looking for volunteers who are interested in this civic planting, those who have won awards. Hi. You can contact the clerk's office and let them know. And we appreciate that you give your time and energy to make this place just a little bit prettier. Thank you.
Congratulations to all the winners, and thank you, a big thank you to the Beautification Commission. They've been doing this for a lot of years, and it's a lot of hard work, so We appreciate it very much. And I believe your commission has a meeting and you'd like to kind of disperse, so
Thank you.
we'll give you a minute to kind of go out before we go on with the rest of the agenda. Yeah. It's hard to do when people are talking. Okay, we'll move on. We have one more presentation, if the clerk would please read it.
Veronica Campbell, Executive Director of the Port Huron Museum, will provide an update on the museum.
Good evening, esteemed City Council and Madam Mayor and James Freed, our manager. I'm Catherine Duffy, Chair of the Board of Directors of the Port Huron Museum. Before I introduce our new Executive Director of the museum, it's a very happy chore that I have tonight. I'd just like to thank the City Council from the bottom of the staff and the Board of Directors and my heart for all of the faith and guidance through the last couple of years where we have persevered during some very challenging times, and you guys were a good ear and a good shoulder. It means a lot to our city that we are all in this together, and you have certainly shown us that. So I certainly appreciate it, and have the very happy job tonight of introducing Veronica Campbell.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Veronica Campbell, Executive Director of the Port Huron Museum. I started at the museum in 2016 as Director of Collections and Exhibits. And in my 3.5 years of being there, I've worked in many capacities in marketing, programs, exhibits, and you name it, and we've all done it. I stepped into the interim director position in 2018, October of last year, and then it was my honor to accept the position of executive just this past July. Not only is this a chance to introduce myself to you, but it's also to introduce a new Port Huron Museums to you. It is a new era and a new age, and I look forward and I am excited to tell you where we are and where we are going. Currently, I have a highly dedicated staff of 11 team members, 5 of which are full-time. And all of them are valuable and essential in every part of the way. One I would like to point out, if you have not encountered him yet, I hope you get the chance to, as you should for all of our staff members. But in particular, my community engagement manager, Andrew Kircher, who is present tonight. He is definitely getting out into the community, and one of his responsibilities is our online presence, because that's the society we live in now. He is also he has been tasked with the responsibility of overseeing the renovation of our website. So check out our new website. It's beautiful, and it was done locally, which we are very proud of. Something else that falls under Andrew is community outreach. He and I have worked and talked very long about community partnerships, and we look forward to connecting with our local communities, our local businesses, and expanding that reach to outside the St. Clair County and bringing people in here to experience what we have to offer. And in general, moving the museum forward and to become an active member of the community. To date, we have hosted over 30 more group tours than we did last year. Group tours being groups visiting the Port Huron area from outside the area at one or all of our sites. The number from last year, we are up over 500 people in these group tours since last year, which is incredible. The numbers just keep getting better. To date, we have offered over 40 more educational programs than we did last year. And those programs have brought in over 2,000 people to our educational programs, which is exciting. We have proudly formed new local community partnerships and have held cultural events for both the local NAACP chapter. We hosted their Juneteenth celebration, which will now be an annual event. And then this past weekend, we hosted, in partnership with the Blue Water Indigenous Peoples Alliance, we hosted the first powwow in Port Huron in about 10 years, with an astounding attendance of close to 600 people. It was a great day. We are looking forward to working with both, thank you. We're looking forward to working with both groups to continue these partnerships and developing programs and events that will celebrate their cultural heritage and educate our communities. We look forward to continue creating these community partnerships. We love to explore ideas. We have created a partnership with the Hallway Escape just down the road from us. And these are the types of community partnerships and connections that we really want to embrace and move forward with. We have connected with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we're working with them to help advertise our sites. And we're also partnering with them whenever they need a site tour or a site rental for any of their events. We're more than happy to be their go-to. We hosted the Michigan Lighthouse Festival. It was their first time in the Thumb Coast region. We were happy to do that as we have the oldest lighthouse in Michigan. We've had an extremely busy season, and our sites will be open full-time until September 9th. And then we will go to weekends for the rest of the season, and the Carnegie is, of course, open year-round. Some things on the horizon. The Fort Gratiot Hospital project is 99% done with the exterior renovation. There's just a couple more things, and this was definitely in part to the Spartan Fund. After the exterior is finished, we will move on to the interior exhibit of military and medical history. We have Fort Gratiot Hospital Heritage Days coming up September 7th and 8th. Come see some vintage baseball, check out the progress of what's going on. We have changed up our annual fall fundraiser to Hopstoberfest. We will have a beer festival and a tasting on Lighthouse grounds October 18th. And then we're also excited to bring to the Blue Water area a new exhibit starting October 25th, The Storm of 1913 Through a Diver's Perspective. And we've been working closely with the diver community to help tell that story as well. So we're very excited to make that offering. I am passionate about the museum because I've always seen the potential that's been there. I'm excited about what we've created this past year, and I am honored to be in the position I am to be able to take the museum to its next level. I invite each of you to come stop by at any of our sites or all of them. It's a wonderful day trip, and get excited with me and with my staff and with my board to see what's coming for the museum. We're on to bigger and better things. Thank you for the chance to introduce myself and to introduce the new museum. And I hope to work with each of you and see all of you at our sites in the future. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a comment.
Sure. Go ahead.
I did stop over for that Juneteenth event, and the way the mezzanine, that construction project turned out is outstanding. Completely
you.
opens it up, and that whole upper level, so it was nice to see that being completed and how it turned out.
Yeah, the Carnegie Reimagined Phase 2 has been completed. And the mezzanine, we were able to keep the original glass floor, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
Thank you.
Yep. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
What are your hours for the Carnegie Building?
Carnegie Building is open to the public Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the staff is there Monday through Friday. So,
Veronica, can I call you Veronica?
Yes.
Okay. I love your humbleness and your passion, because that's what it's going to take. And you already had a prelude into that by already being a part of the museum. And so I have no doubt that you're going to take it to higher heights. And I certainly will continue to support you, not just as a city council member, but as a human being, Anita Ashford. So I'll be over there, okay?
look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move on the agenda, we have public hearing number 1.
To hear comments on the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for the 2018 program year.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on public hearing number 1 relative to the CAPER? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. We'll move on to public comment. Now is the time, if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council, please come forward, give us your name and address, and you have 4 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Mike Williams. I live at 1303 18th Street. Been here a few times before. Unfortunately, I can't make it as much as I'd like to with conflicting schedule with my daughter in gymnastics. I'm actually supposed to be picking her up 2 minutes ago. But I believe this is very important. I told him that I may be a few minutes late. Either way, I'm a 6-year United States Army veteran. Did that for 6 years. After I got out, I worked at Mueller Brass for about 5 years, and then I got myself into the medicinal cannabis industry. And I see here that you guys discussed not too long ago. I know that I had brought up comment beforehand, before you guys had discussed. And I seen tonight that you guys were also discussing on the matter in purpose of prohibiting the establishments. Now, I know there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misinformation out there with medicinal cannabis and how it's used or things that go with it. Long story short, though, is that I work with Hometown Hero Project, I've worked with Wounded Warrior Project, I work with a lot of veterans and a lot of other medicinal cannabis patients here in the area who have zero access to any of their cannabis unless it's for a caregiver like myself or a network of caregivers that all work together to try to help these people so they don't have to drive to Flint or they don't have to drive to Detroit. They can get clean, safe medicine here at home. I mean, there's guys that I've seen that took Ziploc baggies full of Vicodins before they started using cannabis, having liver problems, issues with their kidneys. Now they just eat an edible, they're good to go, they can function, they aren't addicted to things. And I'm sure that all you guys can agree with me that opiates have become a problem. And I believe that medicinal cannabis has definitely helped curb that. Now, whether you like it or I like it, the people did vote on it, and I believe it is very constructive for our city or for our community to be able to opt into this, because we're only going to see good from it. It's going to bring in a lot of revenue. I'm not sure what the concerns may be with you guys as far as why you guys would choose to prohibit any marijuana establishments, but the people that I work with and all the people that I've met since I've been doing this are nothing but wholeheartedly good people, people who love their friends and their family. A lot of them ended up getting into this industry because they had sick friends or they had a sick mom or a sick dad. You know, it's unfortunate that sometimes we aren't able to provide for them and then they have to be left to drive to Flint or to drive to Detroit in order to try to procure their medicine. Some of these people are in wheelchairs, some of these people are blind from the war, can't go get their meds. They need somebody here to be able to bring it to them. But all in all, I believe that it would be good for our city and good for the community. Not only will it bring in a lot of money, but I mean, you aren't going to see you're going to see a decrease in opiate use, and I believe we're going to see, you know, just as the lady was talking before, hey, we're having a taste test of beers, local breweries. I mean, this is, we're all over the age of 21. Alcohol is obviously a far, far more addictive and far worse drug that we could ever have to sell in the stores to anybody over the age of 21 compared to this substance. But I just would hope that you guys would really take into consideration not prohibiting any of these businesses. I mean, we've seen it before. I'm not sure if you guys have been up with Normal or the Cannabis Council. Well, a lot of the times that these are prohibited, they're having petitions ran anyway to flip.
Mr. Williams, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your 4 minutes are up, so.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob Beeden. I live at 3807 Catalpa Court here in Port Huron. And I wish to speak on 2 issues this evening, but please don't let the brevity of my words diminish their significance. First, a thank you to the City Council and management, administration, for the continued demolition of homes in the Howard Street area around 8th and 10th Street. This is near the First United Methodist Church. Recently, 3 homes were demolished and 3 new homes are being processed, built with Habitat for Humanity, and they're extremely nice. It is very helpful to that neighborhood. These homes significantly increase the appearance of the neighborhood, provide code-approved housing, attract families, and hopefully reduce crime, which I'd like to give a shout out to the Port Huron Police Department, because there was a time when our parking lot was a very distressful place, and people coming there in the evening had to be chaperoned out to their car. With their help and the work of some of our diligent trustees, we've cleaned it up, and we're very proud to be a part of the city of Port Huron. So once again, thank you for that program, and I believe it is part of the CAPRA program that you perhaps just had a hearing on here, and we just urge you to continue. Secondly, the Sikori family has for decades, not just years, sponsored baseball, softball, and hockey teams in Port Huron and positively affected thousands of people. Recently, Lou Sikori passed away, and several people have become interested in naming the ball diamond at Pine Grove Park Sikori Field of Pine Grove Park or Sikori Softball Field of Port Huron. We are open to suggestions and agreement as to what might be the best way to proceed with this. We have a subcommittee composed of Lynn Sikori, Brad Sikori, longtime player and coach Dick Hilliker, and me. So we hope to hear from you about the possibility of making this come true for the Sikori family. They surely deserve it and have affected many, many, many people in a very positive way, both as individuals and to the business that they have brought to this community as an economic engine. Thank you. I hope to hear from you within a couple of weeks.
Perhaps, Mr. Freed, if you could have someone meet with their committee?
Yes,
Don't mind
absolutely.
doing it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is my first meeting, city council meeting. Am I allowed to ask the council questions?
No, you can make your comments and we'll digest your comments,
I
but
see.
no, it's not a back and forth.
I understand.
Your name, though, we need your name.
Yeah,
and
my name's
address.
Jared Ross. I live at 2114 Cypress, right in town. This is my first meeting, like I said. I decided to come because I felt passionately, just as the other gentleman did, about the issue with banning of marijuana-related businesses. It's unfortunate I can't ask you guys, and maybe we'll go over it later on, but the specific reasoning why the council has proposed to ban these businesses, I guess I haven't given a lot of thought, I mean hours to it. But on the drive here, I was thinking what kind of negatives can come from a business like this being in town. And not a lot of negatives come to mind. I know a lot of people who are in professions, very respectable professions, who are users of recreational and medical marijuana. And I know right now that if they don't buy it gray market or black market, not to make it sound bad, from people around town who grow, they go down to Detroit and they spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in a trip down to Detroit. I guess it is beyond me why the council would want to maybe forego the revenue that one of these businesses could easily generate for the town. I'm not brushed up on when this happened because I wasn't of voting age when this happened, but a couple of years before we voted for statewide legalization for recreational use, the city, the city voted to allow or decriminalize marijuana in some way, if you guys remember, that instance. So I personally think that the city has already spoken on their opinions of marijuana, and they weren't, to my knowledge, that was proposed as is, hey, if you want to vote on this to decriminalize, that's what we're allowing you to do. My personal belief is that if we were able to vote as a city for recreational or medical use in general, without any of those stipulations, it would have passed the same way it did. So in that regards, I think we've already voted on that. I think the city has already made it clear their opinions on cannabis and that they want it here, they find it useful. And I guess it would be slightly disappointing to see the council put this ban on marijuana-related businesses when I guess the state and the city and the people have just, in my opinion, made it so clear that it's something that they wish to be around. So it's unfortunate that these comments have to come before we discuss this proposed ban, because I know I have a lot of questions about it. If you guys have any way that I could maybe get more answers on the subject after the matter, and, I guess have a more in-depth discussion, not a back and forth as an argument, but I feel like there's a lot of things that I can't bring up, and a lot of these people may not be able to bring up because we just don't know about it, because we're not going to hear about it until after we're making our comments. So is there a place that we can maybe make comments and give our opinions and feedback after this meeting?
Well, you certainly can reach out after the meeting, but just so that you know, we did have a public meeting, and people did come forward here about a month, 6 weeks ago, I think it was. And
Okay.
and so we did have a lot of discussion then. And just for the record's sake, this is not a total ban. This is just postponing it until June 30th of next year to do any action.
I appreciate the clarification.
So just so you know that it's not
Yeah.
a total opt-out, it's just so that we can look at our ordinances and look at what's happening so that we're not caught short and
Sure.
want to adopt the right ordinances and everything to
Do you
proceed.
have a
if we
timer
should.
left? How much time I have, out of curiosity?
Well, I've kind of cut into your time, so I'll give you a little bit extra, but you have about probably 40 seconds.
Yeah, so I guess reinforcing my point on that, like the other gentleman said too, we all know how bad the effects of alcohol can be, what it does to people, the crippling addictions it has. The scientific evidence is all there about marijuana. It's not the same animal, but yet, there is no shortage of liquor stores, party stores on almost every corner in this town. And even now, I don't know how the business approval goes, but there are still businesses getting approval to open their doors that are selling tobacco products and, everything else that has been shown to be more harmful, if not in the same category. And I think it's a little bit obnoxious that these places are still allowed to operate and open, while people who may be trying to open their cannabis businesses to provide a service to the community and medicine to those who need it won't be allowed to do that.
Okay, thank you. Also, this is just the first reading of the ordinance tonight. It will come back to the council in September, and I'm sure we'll discuss it at the time, so maybe some of your questions will be answered at that point anyways.
Good evening. My name is Nina Kinney. I live at 1607 17th Street. I've been here before. I was at the last meeting. I was very disappointed to read that you guys have decided to do the ban. I know it's not permanent, but I am asking the council to consider allowing me to open a private cannabis social club, which is not asking to sell, grow, anything that would be regulated in that way. And I would like a safe and secure place to consume marijuana, as I stated previously. There are many circumstances that make it difficult, if not impossible, to consume marijuana in the privacy of one's home. For instance, if you rent, you have children, your spouse doesn't like it. What we are doing is offering a solution to our community for this problem. I have the support right now of nearly 1,000 members, and we have not opened yet. I am asking for the council's support. I am proposing the club be located at 3301 24th Street, formerly known as Seeker's Bar. I have been in close contact with Mr. Arthur Payne, the owner, and I have his full support. The business is no longer has its liquor license, which is perfect because alcohol would be prohibited, along with smoking and illicit drugs and weapons. The location offers public transportation, but we would also offer a countywide shuttle service to ensure everyone's safety. The facility would be safe and secure. We will accomplish this by using a keyed entry system. Secondly, we would employ a security guard to use a metal detector to ensure no outside weapons are permitted. We will install an air filtration system that won't allow for any odors to escape and become a nuisance to our neighbors. We want to be an example of what the cannabis community can be. We plan to team up with multiple nonprofits to give back to our community. We want to work with the city to understand their needs and how we can possibly help. So I'm asking for the council's support regardless of the ban you are planning to impose on retail stores and growers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Matt Standish. I live at 1103 Chestnut Street. I moved back to Port Huron a couple years ago. I lived in Indiana for about 20 years. I'm retired from the Indiana National Guard, and I work for Indiana University in Research Computing. I love this town, as I'm sure everyone else here does. I want my kids to grow up here. That's why I moved back. Now, with everything that has been said earlier about marijuana usage has been correct, especially when it comes to veteran care and PTSD. I feel very strongly about that. What I'm worried about with the ordinance that is proposed is that by putting it off a year, we're telling other entrepreneurs that we're not interested in the business. People are going to smoke pot here legally. It's been passed. It's going to happen. The question is, who is going to receive the tax money? And I would hope that we would be the recipients. I would hope that people would come to Port Huron to buy it instead, where we can have it, where we can build a community around it, and people would come here and purchase rather than leave and go out of town and purchase, and those tax dollars and that revenue go over there. And everything else has already been said. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council this evening?
Hello, Council. City Manager James Freed and Mayor Rep. I'm Angela Kelly, 1410 11th Street. And I don't have anything prepared. I just wanted to talk. Once again, we had another drug bust at my neighbor's house, and this has been ongoing for an entire year. Our neighbors collectively have all come together, which is really great. But over and over at 1040 Chestnut, this property keeps getting sold to landlord after landlord. The last landlord has ate up about 100 houses, rental houses, and is having problems like this. I have called every department in the city and just trying to do the right thing by sticking by with the police, letting them do their jobs, along with Drug Task Force, which we're very thankful, and they're really good-looking guys, too, there the other day, too. So having 10 on your lawn is pretty good, so. These are buff guys. They're not taking any slack, and they're kicking doors down, so we do appreciate them. Mr. Haynes has been very helpful in walking me through the process. It's been really frustrating. Obviously, by me being set up here today, it's just been a lot of things that we didn't need to go through, and especially this whole entire year. And the process has been really hard. And trying to do the right thing is really, really hard. So I'm asking that you do the right thing. And we need to have these rentals. Either you're going to have to hire more rental inspectors to do more quality, holding the landlord's feet to the fire a little bit more. Background checks, I can't say it enough, that these landlords are going to have to do. This was a small business. My family's owned a small business here for over 76 years. If this was a small business doing something like this, violence coming out of there, drug use, overdoses, selling multiple drugs like, meth, heroin, all the things that we're fighting against. So I'm just asking that we get the officers back in the neighborhood. Really disappointing when I asked who was my community police officer, and no one knew, and the map is in the police officer's bathroom. No one's really sure how to find it. I worked really close with Chief Reeves when he was here for neighborhood nuisances, chain those doors up, hold them accountable until it's repaired. And then also, who is my neighborhood captain? Everyone had a good ear. And we need this. These are school zones that I live in. These are school zones, so we really need to get the officers, that neighborhood, that community, what Port Huron is all about. We're all neighbors. We all do business together. We all serve together. We all go to church together. So we've got to get that back. We're missing that. And so many great things are happening in Port Huron. I just want to get that. I'm in Germantown, the old Germantown, and I really miss that because I'm a kid from here and I grew up in that neighborhood. And restoring a 100-year-old house there, and I shouldn't have to put up with that next door. So, and one more thing, because I didn't see it in the announcements, and a really great note, I know you know that City Rec got a $250,000 Tony Hawk grant for the skate park. I don't think enough attention has come to this, so I'm really asking every business, everybody, even if it's $20, to go to that. I believe it's a GoFundMe account. I know it's through the city, Nancy Windsor through the rec department, but this is a really great opportunity. This is really cool for Port Huron. We're a cool city, so, you know, I'm just asking for the businesses to step up. I believe the city is throwing it, obviously, too, so that match grant's really important, and it's like coming down to the wire, and I don't think anyone realizes that. So my girl is a girl that skates, and I'm really thrilled for the new skate park, too. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening? Declare public audience closed, and we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem
Support.
Archibald and Councilmember Ashford. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes?
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Items on the consent agenda, received and filed notification that the annual conflict of interest statements have been reviewed and no discrepancies were found. Authorizing application of a Burn JAG program fiscal year 2019 grant in the amount of $35,666 for implementation of strategies to reduce criminal activity and acceptance of any grant funds if awarded. And confirm the mayor's reappointment of Mike Rosso to the Planning Commission for a term to expire August 11th, 2022. Boards and commissions, number one.
Receive and file notification from the Planning Commission regarding their decision to deny recommendation on the request to rezone the property generally described as 3125 Bartlow Street from an R1 zoning district to a C1 zoning district. Council may choose not to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and choose to schedule their own public hearing for September 9, 2019 to take action on this matter.
Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Which, is it a motion to
To
receive and file it
receive and file, yes.
with no objection to what they, yeah, okay. Got it. Is there a second?
Second.
Yep. Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. So the motion on the floor is just to receive and file the Planning Commission with no further action. So we have discussion.
Mayor Rapp,
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
I had the pleasure the other night going to the planning commission meeting, and there was some good deliberation. I think they made a firm decision based on the request from this property owner that there wasn't sufficient guidelines where we knew that or the city would know what the structure would be when it got completed. So I will be supporting the decision of the planning commission and compliment them on what they did. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Beeden, you're the representative on the Planning Commission. Did you want to add anything?
Just that the neighborhood came out pretty strongly against it, and they were very concerned about the structure that would be going up would be a garage, basically, in their neighborhood, with no one living there, no utilities going to it, and so we listened to the community and the property owner and made a decision based on that.
Thank you. Any other discussion from anyone else on council?
I think that's, Mayor Rep, that's an example of a planning commission listening to our public.
Yes.
And they know that it's a two-way street. They have to come and show, how they feel about it, and it certainly helps. It makes a difference.
Any other comments? We'll take the vote.
Mayor Rep.
Councilmember Ward.
I was looking down here at the bottom of the first page here of this Planning Commission little summary. After review of the material, it says material provided, comments public. It says voted to deny, and instead of vote of 3 yeses, 3 noes, 0 absent, and 1 abstained. And I just was wondering, isn't the Planning Commission doesn't have 9 members?
Not everyone was present.
It says 0 absent.
Let's say 0
So I'm just,
absent.
that kind of threw me off there.
I believe we have 2 vacancies.
Pardon me?
I think Cindy.
They have
Do we
vacancies.
have 2
No,
vacancies?
no, they don't have any vacancies. Don't believe so. But it says 0 on here. It's a misprint on there, okay.
I
It was
I-
two
I appreciate
absences.
that clarification. Didn't add up, and I was like, what's going on? Okay, I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes?
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we'll move on to from the city manager, number 1, please.
Accepting the single source quote from Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $36,926.95 for the purchase of 3 mobile radios and 7 portable radios for use by the police department.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
We practiced.
Yes, Councilmember Beeden and Councilmember Ashford. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Warden.
I do appreciate the little summary here of reason. I just was wondering on the Kenwood ones that you're looking to replace, how long ago did we purchase those?
They were purchased from Emergency Management 3 years ago? 3 years ago. To be quite frank, this is an officer safety issue. Those radios are absolute crap.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
They break out. Half the time, the officers can't hear themselves on it, and so we have to give them back and get ones that can actually work.
I think, I read that, and I was like, man, I just can't imagine the police having to be out there and having turn a light on, or when something comes on, or having trouble speaking. But how do we know with these new ones? I mean, Kenwood's a pretty good name, and these are what, Motorola now? These are going to be, how do we know the
Well,
other
we had
departments? How do we know
say
these are going
we
to
had no
perform
say
the
in ordering
same?
Kenwoods. I don't think Kenwoods have a very good reputation in the police community. Motorola or industry standards is what we use in our fire department. It's what we use elsewhere within the city. It's also, Motorola is the best.
Okay. And then our last thing is or what are we going to do with the Kenwoods we're taking out of service? We're going to
As
try
I
to
said,
sell
we're
them, or?
going to send them back to emergency management because they bought them with grant
Oh,
funds.
okay. Thank you for that info.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor Rep, and I
Yes,
see this
Councilmember
is,
Ashford.
I see this is being taken out of the Enhanced 9/11 Fund.
Correct.
And then also, before we do any purchases, we did do our due diligence as far as quality, finding it out. The chief, he checked that out.
Yes.
And so it's okay. And I think it's important that we give our officers the right tools to do the job, and particularly that they be safe, in doing so. Thank you.
Any other discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2.
Accepting the quote from Wolverine Power Systems in the amount of $51,550 for a Generac MDG 100 portable generator for use at various sanitary pump stations.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Ashford. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor, this was a budgeted item. We had budgeted $52,000 in this budget, so it came in about $450
That's pretty darn close.
under budget.
Pretty darn close.
Fight.
Any discussion?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Warden.
Just reading a little background here as well, at least this, my understanding here, this is one that actually can be both generate the higher 480 volts and then also 240 volts. Is that right?
Correct.
And with that flexibility and utility, we're going to be able to pull this with one of our City of Port Huron vehicles, no problem on this
Correct.
thing, and get it out to the site. My initial thought was, how often does it go down? And then some of the, electric companies have those backup big generators that we hear, they even go down to help some of the tropical storms and places that are hit. How much, just in general, is it to call in for one of those from one of the local, whether it's the electric companies in town, I don't want to name names, but they to bring it out there? Do you know what it would cost if we had to get it out there and see if?
So, no, but it's in the thousands of dollars. But the issue is, for instance, I know one of the restaurants in town, the power went out. They ordered one of the generators as well.
Yep.
The issue with us is we don't have the luxury of time. This
Yeah.
is an essential service. So if the power goes out, we can't be calling around looking for a generator. We have to keep the sewer flowing and keep the water going. We also don't know, there's oftentimes parts of the city are without power and other parts have power. For instance, Mayor Rep and I were without power for 3 days, and no one else apparently was, except for us, 2 weekends ago. So this can be towed around the city. It can be the variables, power outage, the power it can put out. It can be used at different lift stations. So it's when we're doing contingencies, we don't have the luxury of hoping someone else can come with a generator. We have to make sure the water is drinkable, and we have to make sure the sewer keeps flowing.
Yeah. Well, my comment is just it's a necessity. I think it's a little bonus. It came in just a little under budget, but it also has that ability to have two different power levels. So hopefully it helps us continue our service in times of need. I will be supporting this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
Yeah, I see here we have 13 sanitary pumps, and this tonight will bring us to 6 generators, is that correct? 6.
How many generators do we have?
We have
How many generators do we have?
generators.
4.
Oh, you have 4, oh, okay. So are we going to be needing any more?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We currently have 4 towable generators in our fleet. Some of those are 30 or 40 years old, so they're becoming issues of maintaining reliability. So trying to be proactive. We put money in this current budget to buy one. It's possibly in another year or so we might come back with another request for a second one. So obviously we have standby generators at our big stations. We have 2 more going in that are natural gas this fall. So we will have 6 that won't have that, and those are our smaller stations. So it really depends on where the power outages are, and some of these smaller stations, we can rotate the generators around because they don't have that much flow to them.
Okay, so that will be sufficient enough to make that coverage?
For now, yes.
Oh, okay, for now.
Yeah.
But in the future, you can see us still getting more?
Yeah, because like I said, the 4 that we have are aged. 2 did come from, are repurposed from when we were part of Housing Commission.
Right.
Their facility, those got mounted on trailers, and we've been using those for probably a good 15, 20 years, so.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 3.
Accepting the bid from RCL Construction in the amount of $1,384,500 for the construction of a new electrical switchgear building and installation of the main electrical gear at the wastewater treatment plant.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support?
Councilmember Beeden, supported by Councilmember Ashford. Could you give us a little background on this, please?
For $1 million, we'll have Witter,
Yeah.
we'll have Witter come up and give us a little detail.
Mayor and City Council, as you recall, the memo states, June of last year, the City Council approved the purchase of the actual switchgear. A contractor that was working for us, that was doing testing in the current switchgear that started to have failure, was able to get their hands on a brand-new switchgear through Siemens that had been, the order had essentially been canceled. So with that purchase, we saved about $250,000 and about 20 weeks of lead time. So the next phase, which is before you right now, is the actual construction of the building which it'll be housed in, the demolition of the existing switchgear, all the conduit, all the electrical, that sort of thing to get installed. And the one remaining piece that isn't before you yet is we're working with the county and DTE for an easement and an agreement for a new service that will feed the switchgear. So this switchgear is where all the power comes in from DTE and then is distributed throughout the plant through 2 substations. So this is a very critical part and component of the wastewater plant.
He did put on the back side as well, because the wastewater plant is a joint ownership between the townships, so we won't be fronting all the cost. You'll see the percentages broken down here that Kimball Township, Port Huron Township, and Fort Gratiot will pay. So only about 67% is coming from the city.
Of the total cost.
Correct, from our wastewater fund.
And that makes that million looks like nothing. When you break it down, when I turn the page, I want, shoo. So that's good, yeah.
So obviously, this is something we've been anticipating doing.
Correct.
Yeah. Any questions for Mr.
Aaron?
Witter? Yes,
Yeah,
Councilman
you know,
Harris.
I was looking at this, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look at our previous meeting that he was reciting from, and just to find out what the total project might cost us. But I see we're right now at about $1.9 million, and going up, by the way, the talk from the representative here tonight is. But I guess my big question when I looked at it tonight is this here, it says it's the construction of a new electrical switchgear building and installation of the main electrical gear. Yet, when we get to payments on the payment part of the city agenda tonight, on item 1.9, we have Tetra Tech payment for replacement of this equipment for $56,707. So it kind of conflicts with me that we're saying this, for this $1.3 million, we're getting it done, and now we're seeing Tetra Tech going to get an additional 56.
So this is the construction cost, it's not the overall project cost. So we have a separate line item for engineering design services. So when council approved the purchase back June of last year, it also was an agreement with Tetra Tech to help us through the acquisition and design moving forward with the project.
So it's kind of a misplacement in words, because it would say that under this recommendation here that the installation of the electrical gear was being done by RCL, but in fact it'll be done by Tetra Tech.
Councilman Harris, we always, on every project, separate engineering and construction cost out. It's always a different line item, whether it be road construction or water mains or sewer mains. Engineering is always separate from the actual construction cost.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember Warden?
This, and I remember us purchasing the Siemens, something, say, like you said, $200,000. This new building, and then having all this all the hardwire and changing everything around, I'm imagining. Number one, how long is it going to take, and how long will the system, this is the main source electric switch, how long are we anticipating? Is there any downtime going to be?
So, sure. If it's awarded tonight, we have every belief that we probably will have the building itself constructed by the first of the year with the switchgear installed and everything. It's a matter of working with DTE and the county for agreements to get the actual electrical service in. As far as long as it'll last, obviously the other one was installed in the 70s in a much harsher environment. This one is going to be in its own building with climate control, so I mean we should get at least what we got out of it, if not longer than the first one that we're replacing.
Yeah, not really looking for the length of time, but will the other one be able to continue to run while this is getting installed up to the point of turn on?
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's
we won't
currently
have
running, knock on wood, but there will be a period of time when we have to do a switchover.
Yeah.
But by having the building built externally, everything installed, the switchover and de-energizing is much less than if we were to try to replace it where it's currently sitting. So there probably will be some temporary power, but we really have to get with the contractor and determine, you know, what their sequence of events and how much time they think it'll take to actually switch it over.
And for the internal environment, is there going to be some type of different air filtration system or something? Because I know it mentioned...
Right now, it's exposed to all the elements where
Yeah.
it's located. So right now...
The new one.
The new one will be in its own building with its own conditioning equipment, heater, dehumidification, so it won't be part of the wastewater plant. It'll just be attached to it.
That's a smart move. Yep. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris? Mayor Rapp?
Yes. We'll move to resolutions. Number 1, please.
Authorizing 12 payments.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Ashford. Is there any discussion?
Sorry. Here,
Councilmember Ashford.
Can we get an update on the Lake Pine Grove Park restrooms and stuff?
Yeah,
I see
they're-
a change order was there.
Yeah, they're finishing, the change order for Pine Grove, let me find which page.
1-8.
What's going, 1/8?
Yeah, 1/8.
Yeah. I just want to know what's going on. It's going to be open.
Yeah. The change order for Pine Grove Park was the parking, the asphalt on the older parking spots was becoming a liability. There's a lot of potholes and tripping hazards. And so we authorized at the time when they were milling, they milled it down, they were able to overlay it. At the same time they overlaid Quay Street, so we were able to get a decent price on getting all those parking lots up to standards as well. They're doing the punch list right now. I believe they got the bathrooms all up and running. We are on, Nancy's been talking with a hot dog vendor to do like a lease agreement where they would clean the bathrooms and maintain the bathrooms in lieu of some type of service exchange. So they could sell hot dogs out of our stand if they keep the bathrooms clean, kind of what we do at Pine Grove Park, Lakeside Park. So it should be done in the next couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty much done. They were in there literally caulking today,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's that far along.
Any other questions, discussion?
Mayor Rapp?
Councilmember Warden.
Just a couple comments. I try to drive, by these projects, throughout the city, just to, kind of take it in, and I can tell you the Pine Grove Park there, that I think it turned out outstanding. The parking on the east side now is full. There's people, doesn't matter if it's Sunday at night, Thursday, they're out there sitting there enjoying the park, and then also the baseball. And it's just a wonderful improvement, and I just wanted to comment on that. The other thing, I did have a question, though, as I drove through there. It's probably not on here, but there was the water filtration plant, when we demoed the deck there, it was on the riverside for storage, and we built that. It's like a two garage, two big, huge industrial garage door addition off the west side that was kind of matched there for the new storage. And I noticed, after the winter, the doors still were not coming in. I was wondering about it, but I did drive by a few weeks ago, and they actually had guys out there removing all of the brick off that was already put on that new addition. So I just was wondering kind of what happened with that, or what's going on with that.
So just like your personal home, we demand quality work. And if a brick job's not done up to the standards you would have on your permanent home, then we tell them to take it off and redo it. The brick work was not done up to standards. It was crooked, it wasn't even, and so we said, we're not satisfied with it, and we're not paying you, and so they took all the bricks off, and they're re-bricking it to our standards. We are working with the structural engineer to make sure that that roof is properly secured, and so we're constantly looking at the project, so I think we will see some changes in design coming before you in the next couple months. But I tell people, just because we're city, we don't just sign off on projects. We have inspectors that if a project's not done right, we say either you redo it or we're not going to pay you. And luckily, we work with a great contractor who agreed that his subcontractor did subpar work, and they're making it right.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. I was like, let's going back, but I appreciate that info, so thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
last thing on the Pine Grove Park, we did make a commitment to the community. You mentioned the old wastewater plant that we took down, that we would build another viewing platform, and that has been done. If you actually slow down across from the new bathrooms, there is a large patio overlooking the river that we're going to put some tables and chairs and benches out there. That is it's actually a way better viewing than it was before. So that has been done as we said we would.
I did see that, that's nice. We will take a vote on the payments.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris? Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. Resolution 2.
Approving the agreement with CBiz Benefits and Insurance Services Incorporated to conduct an actuarial valuation of post-employment healthcare benefits for the city.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Pemberton, supported by Councilmember Ashford. Is there discussion?
Mayor, Rep, is this just as probably a part of our unfunded liability?
Yep, this is-
Public Act 202?
Yep, this is legal required.
Yeah.
We have to pay an outside actuarial to give us a valuation that we have to report in our audit. And so this is just legally
Yeah.
required. Yep. I think we do it every 3 years, correct, Ed?
We used to do it every 2 years, but now we have to do it every year.
Oh, every year for GASB 78.
Because of
Yeah.
the act, the
Yeah.
Public Act that we
We had to start
put in. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is this the same company that we've been doing it with? Is there any other questions, discussion?
Just a quick question, just looking at the kind of the addendum or scope of services at the bottom. Time frame just said, they should be able to get it completed within 4 to 6 weeks after getting all the info. Just, from today in August, when do we expect that report to probably be on your desk?
September, October.
Okay.
And then I typically email it out to the council
Yep.
the day I get it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. We will move to ordinances. Number 1, please.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 12 Businesses of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances by adding Article 13 marijuana establishments for the purpose of prohibiting marijuana establishments in the city of Port Huron.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. I wonder if perhaps you could give us a
Yep,
little
absolutely.
overview of the thinking that you've put together here.
Yep. First and foremost, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight to share public comment. We have heard that it's very cognitive, the public sentiment on this issue and how it's front and center. It's a little bit unfortunate how we got here. When the regulations for the marijuana industry were coming out in compliance with the voter initiative drive, there was a timeline for those to roll out. And most communities were waiting for the state to roll out the timeline. It was going to be like about 6 months, and then we would draft ordinances accordingly. The governor signed an emergency order in, I believe, May that gave their office at LARA 30 days to release the rules and regulations. The problem with that is municipalities that were going to have 6 months to a year to draft local ordinances no longer had that timeline to work with. And so we were working with one timeline, and then the governor forced a second timeline on it. So we did not have time to appropriately draft ordinances, to do the public hearings, to decide which portions of the law we would choose to go on. The mayor and council have the decisions. They can go for some, for all of it, maybe for a little bit of it. We have not had any time to do that. So what we've done here, and the reason why I say it's unfortunate is a lot of communities kind of got gun shy. When the governor forced that rapid timeline, we saw now more than 500 communities across the state permanently opt out because they got scared of it. Hey, we don't have time. We don't have time to get it done, so we're just going to opt out. So a lot of communities have permanently opt out. Based on my discussions with the mayor and council, I think most people feel like that's kind of that's not the appropriate answer. The answer is we want to take our time and do this right and have full deliberations. So the ordinance we have before us opts us out, and it sunsets in 12 months. So if we do nothing, we're going to be in by July 1st of 2020. Nothing in this prohibits us from acting sooner. So we're going to continue down this road. And perhaps in November, January, or February, we get all of our ducks in a row, we can rescind this and opt in sooner. So this is just giving us a year to fully research this, to do what's right, because there are some questions on, some people have issues where, they voted for the law to decriminalize it. I was one of the people who voted twice to decriminalize it. But I'm not sure if I necessarily agree to having a major grow operation next to my house. And so there are some zoning issues that need to be addressed. If we're going to do this, where's it going to be at? Where's an appropriate location? We need to have the right timeline to do this. So this is in no way taking a position on marijuana. We don't like it, we're opting out. This is essentially saying we need an appropriate timeline to do this right. so that it's done in a manner that's beneficial to the cannabis community and also in a manner that's beneficial to our community as well in our neighborhoods. And so we're not permanently opting out. We're not taking a position on medical marijuana. This is just giving us a timeline to address it fully.
For council's benefit, Gary Fletcher, who gave us a presentation before, is in the audience, so if you have any questions that he can answer, I'm sure he's happy to answer them for us. And I guess I can open it up to discussion. Is there anybody who would like to?
Mayor, before we go to that, could either the city manager or council talk a little bit? I know several in the audience tonight, and I've heard from many, talking about a revenue stream and the taxes. Could you explain that as well? Because I know originally that was one of my big questions. So if you could touch on that.
Gary, do you want to take that?
There is, well, first of all, the city of Port Huron cannot tax the marijuana sales. There's going to be an excise tax imposed, and if you remember, we went over that in the presentation, and there's money off the top for one thing, then another thing, then another thing, and it's a trickle-down thing. And there's a lot of public entities that believe by the time all the pieces are taken off, as it trickles down, there's not going to be much left. So, and that's one of the reasons that communities are waiting. It's like Mr. Freed said, the time frame got moved way up. What they were saying is rules by September, accepting applications by December, licenses by February or March. So we had a lot of time, and it all got accelerated. So people, there wasn't time to decide a number of issues. And the other thing is, the additional time will give you an indication of how the money is really going to flow down. So, do you mind if I address a couple of these other issues?
Please do.
Because people legitimately raised them. And first of all, the revenue is expected to be minimal. Number two, there's no effect on medical. One of the gentlemen that got up here said that medical marijuana and that type of thing, this has no impact on that. Another individual said that, it was voted to decriminalize marijuana at an ordinance level here first, and then voters here voted in favor of the act which decriminalizes it. This has nothing to do with criminalizing marijuana. It is legal if you're the right age and under right circumstances. What this has to do with are the marijuana establishments. I had talked at length with Mr. Freed, and we felt we had a lot of time to look at ordinances, zoning, how many, that kind of thing. It had all got accelerated by at least 6 or 8 months, and so the time went away. And as it is, when this becomes effective, if you vote for it, we're going to have eaten up July and August, and our 12 months is going to be down to 10. A couple of other things that people wanted more time to look at was, and Chief Platzer was dead set against, he wanted this ordinance permanent. And his concern is the criminal part of it. We went over that because there's tons of cash in these operations, because current federal laws prohibit that money from being put in a bank. There was a terrible robbery shooting, multiple deaths up in Sanilac County. If you look it up around the state, there's been a lot more. There's been more since the first meeting on this. And there's a movement in Congress right now to make an amendment to the banking laws to say that if the money comes from a legal operation or sort of state where it's legalized, then it's not money laundering for banks to take it, and it should greatly alleviate the criminal concerns. And I kind of made a joke at another presentation, the way Congress moves, it might be 3 years, but it looks like they're already having hearings. So I think they realize it's a big problem and people are dying because of it, and they want to stop it. The other thing is there was a big thing is there are 2 gaps in the legal questions, particularly do you have to blanket prohibit every establishment, or can you say some and then limit, completely prohibit some, and then the others limit the number, plus zoning you can use. And it's really unclear what you could do, and that will be litigated, I guarantee you. So we can hopefully get an answer on that. So when and if you enact ordinances, you'll know what you can do. So those are the reasons that I brought up the possibility of a postponement. There was no original thinking on my part. When the timeline got moved up, a number of communities Many of them took the easy way out and just opted out, but a lot were postponing for a year or even longer. So, any questions?
Yeah, is there any questions from council for, yes?
Just kind of a question and comment, you know, that after you had your original presentation back here about a month ago, 3 days after that, the License and Regulatory Agency issued a whole bunch of new parameters and stuff.
Yep.
And I think it's good for the audience here to know that we haven't had an interpretation on these rules and stuff yet. And some of the people went to the ballot box on Tuesday to make decisions for themselves, you know, on whether they wanted it or not. But I just don't, I agree. I think we're just in that position right now where things are changing. Things are still evolving. And to take any concrete step right now would probably be a bad decision for the users or for council. I just think it's problematic the way it's set up. They had rules on how much capital you had to get into business and stuff, and the Licensed and Regulatory Agency threw some of that out of there. So it's a tough decision,
And I agree with you. It's the old take your time and do it right. You rush into it, you're going to make mistakes. There are things in the law that aren't settled, and nobody's hurt by it because the city really at the beginning isn't going to get any significant revenue, number one. And number two, if somebody wants to get recreational marijuana, there's going to be a lot of places to buy it. So I'm an advocate of, if we can take a little more time, if you're going to do something to opt in, that we do it in a well-thought-out way with the proper ordinances, with the proper zoning, and you'll see others that have passed ordinances. You'll have a chance to sit back and see how they work. And you'll know which ones were good ideas and which ones weren't so good. And then you can act based upon what worked well.
Any other questions for Mr. Fletcher?
Yeah, just a couple questions. Again, the presentation was great that you gave us. I think it was July 1st or 2nd or something like that. And I did, July 3rd is when that actually got filed, the emergency rules, which is, I went through it a couple times because this is, when it comes to new business and regulatory, these people, there's an awful lot of things these guys are going to have to go through from all levels to be able to even to apply and then to comply with. A couple of questions I had. Number one is, and just for the public to know, because again, we're at a public meeting, we clarified last time, the way the state law is right now, that any person over 21, it's legal, they're allowed to have marijuana, they're allowed to smoke marijuana, they're allowed to have up to 12 plants in their home. It has nothing to do with council or this ordinance. That's what so that's going on now. So we have these households and residents and people in the city that actually have that ability. Now, again.
And the people that grow it in their homes can give it to other people.
Yes, and they can, yeah, what is it, the amount they can give? I don't remember off the top of my head. 2.5 ounces or something they can give away? I mean, it's, so it's here, it's like, it's a new frontier. It's a scary thing that over the years of everything, but now this new frontier's been here. It's now being going to legalize in the state of Michigan. There's now parameters that are getting put in place for licensing and compliance and how to manage and to stay in compliance. There's different types of businesses that they are allowing the licenses to be applied for. And then for us, it's like we're going to be the ones that are going to be deciding how many of the different types of licenses, if any, are we going to allow in the city, which I think the city voters did vote substantially the last ballot on the national level. But I would like to see us, just because it's only a year away, like 10 months away, I think we need to start having an awful lot more discussions or at least ideas of, is this, if we're going to have them, are they going to, how's it going to look in what zones, CBD zones, what type of things are we allowed to do, and then kind of get updates from you as you see, hey, you don't have to have the 2,500 plant one or 1,000 plant one or this type of things. But I really think we need to be a leader in this as far as up until the next, if this does sunset, and we need to be prepared, not just making a decision next June or May trying to figure this thing out. So, and that allows some public feedback. Go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
In response to that, we'll be getting updates. Mr. Freed will, your planning department will, Mr. Haynes, and we'll be on top of that, and we'll filter that through to all of you. What's working, what isn't working. When decisions come down from courts about these vagaries in the law, we'll tell you how that's settled out, so you'll have information flowing in, because right now we basically had nothing. and other than the act, and to try to interpret that as best as we can. So there will be, and I agree with you, we're going to have to get way ahead of it.
And if I could just point out something that I just, and it's kind of like the insurance wording, okay? It's in there, but then if it's not, it's excluded. And I was looking at here, and if you can clarify, just if you know or not, the way it read here, it said they're only going to be accepting applications for the first 24 months only if you're already established medical marijuana licensed practitioner. We don't have any in the city of Port Huron, correct? So if we actually opted in right now, nobody in the city of Port Huron, no business owner in the city of Port, it's going to be an active one that's already medical is the first ones that are going to be able to apply. Is that correct?
Right, so it'd be somebody medical outside of Port Huron.
Outside of Port Huron.
And the reason is, they've already gone through all the screening, they've met all the legal requirements, they have the capital, they have the license, so it's going to be, the whole intent here was to speed it up. I mean, that's obvious.
But for our city here, a different viewpoint, if somebody, some local businesses or people, local community members that are actively involved and want to potentially look at one of these businesses in the community or a social club license or the different things, even if we opted in right now, they wouldn't be able to accept that license for 24 months anyway.
And I looked at those rules, that's what they say.
Yeah. So we need to, I think it's potentially protecting us here to really make the right decision and look at that. But we need to be working on this to see what the city wants and have discussion going, actively, not just among us, but the community, if we're going to do this and what we want it to look like. Because if you just open it up right now, it's going to be all the big guys that have already, there's 20 or 30 in Ann Arbor, they're at Lansing, they're just going to come in and take those spots. When I say spots, plop a business right here is another location, potentially. And I'm just trying to clarify maybe how I saw a little thing there, that this might help doing the sunset for till June of next year.
I can tell you they're already here,
Yeah.
looking at buildings.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And they're not Port Huron people, they're from out of town.
Right. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions,
Mayor,
discussion? Yes.
I just want to
Mayor
clarify, somebody in the audience talked about if we did this, we opened ourselves up to litigation because it was legal, and if we opt out, somebody could come back on us. And I want to clarify that we have this opportunity to opt out for the 12-month period. Are we opening ourselves up to something?
No, city has a legal right to do it by the ballot proposal and by the law. There's no issue with it. I would say this, if that happened, I would bet big time on the city side of the action. So it just, there's just no way to make a case. The law gives the city council the right to opt out.
And I just have, you guys have a few more questions for Gary. I just have a comment as well. Oh, you're still going, sorry.
Not with Gary, I have a comment as well.
Okay, go ahead.
That was my only question for Gary at this point.
Other questions for
Yes,
Gary?
Gary, could you
Before he sits down?
could you expound a little bit on section 12-581, the sunset? Why was it necessary to put that in there? Are you trying to give a leeway out, or because it's saying without further city council action on June the 30th?
Well, I talked to Mr. Freed about it, and if we're committing to come back and look at this, you know how things work. I mean, I do it at times. I'm going to do this, and then it goes down the road, and down the road, and down the road. So without putting a hard stop in this thing, who knows when we would get back to it. So I think it's really committing to people that we are going to take time to study this. We're going to allot ourselves roughly 10 months to do that, and then have a hard stop where we got to do something. So that's why there's a sunset.
Yeah, but your hard stop is without the city council, and we're an elected body. And we have, should have a say. So this lets us out, so it's whatever you and James come up with, or whoever you're talking to, because usually, under the law, sunsets are really indefinite,
Well, this is not an indefinite sunset. This is a hard.
That's what I'm speaking
Yeah.
to. This is a hard, so is that insurance on your behalf, or, because it's certainly not us as public officials?
Well, and to be clear, I did, before this ordinance went out to the council, and I polled the council, and
You didn't poll me.
I emailed the council the draft, and I said, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. And I have not heard back. I think I heard back from 2 or 3 of you on the draft. But this is just a draft. It can be changed. This is a draft that I worked with legal counsel to bring, but this is a draft that the entire council has received. I believe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you got this draft. So this is not something that I just drafted. This is after conversation with a lot of people.
I'm not trying to be hard on you, but you got to be awful careful. I mean, this is an important subject, you know, whether I'm for it or against or whatever. But anytime you're without further city council, we need to really see what you're saying here. And that means that that's up just to you guys. It's not us. We don't have anything to say.
Right, no,
At-
it would
at
make it
that
automatic. And what Mr. Freed said is correct. This is an idea of an ordinance that honestly follows what a number of other communities are doing, saying, instead of the January 1 or February deadline, we're going to move that out a year to give ourselves more time. You can, by the next meeting, this is just an idea of what you can do. You can amend that. You can take out the sunset, you could lengthen the sunset, you could not pass the ordinance at all and get going in a hurry to get the zoning and the other things done. Because this is what was brought before you. It's our idea. Mr. Freed, you know, I think had discussions with some or most or whatever, and it was an idea of what to put before you, but it doesn't mean it happens. That's your decision,
Right.
not ours.
Well, I've read some, and they didn't have without, you know, they didn't exclude their council. You know, it's not, I don't want to debate or anything, but I just wanted, you know, put that on the table.
That's the way the state law reads, that if the council doesn't take action, it automatically goes into effect. That language is out of the ballot initiative. If it sunsets and the city council doesn't opt out, then per the state law, it automatically goes into effect. The state statute that was passed is what took out the council. So if we do nothing right now, we're going to be opted in.
Yeah.
No, I'm all into that. I know how I want to vote,
Okay.
but I'm just saying here, you put that in here, and I didn't see anywhere else.
Yep. No, it's your decision.
Yeah,
That was,
yeah, thank you.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
I don't believe it takes it out of the hands of the city council because we know. We know we're going to be completely in if we don't do anything by then, and it's our responsibility as either a whole body or an individual to make sure this council addresses this in the proper way, or administration does, prior to that sunset date. So in my opinion, it doesn't take it out of our control. It's not the two of you deciding whether we are or aren't going to. It's us making sure we do something by that date.
all you did is move the line.
Correct.
And where you have to make the decision. And you can move it again.
Okay.
You can do anything you want to do.
Right.
It just buys us more time.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. Okay.
I would say prior to your presentation, I'll be honest, I just couldn't see why not just opt in? Let's just do this. So that was my first initial response. However, there really hardly is any revenue, but it comes down to much of what Councilmember Warden said, in that if we opt in today, none of our city residents are going to get to have one of these businesses anyway. They're all going to be taken by somebody else. There's not going to be anything available for them to do because you have to wait 24 months before you can apply if you're not doing it.
Don't shout out from the audience, okay?
The other issue is I really think I'd like to see, can we opt into part and not all? Can we opt in and out of certain things? Can we opt in 100% to how many dispensaries we have, but not how many growing areas we have? I don't know any of that yet. So I was really willing to go forward with it anyway. But after hearing all of that, I don't think waiting 10 months maximum is that big of a deal. And I think it is important that we get it right. So I will support this resolution that says we will sunset it until that date. But I am very anxious to make sure it does come back to council, and that even if we can do it sooner, as soon as we have those answers, we get something in place and we make a decision as a whole body on what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, and what's this going to look like.
Get it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Questions for Gary before he leaves the podium?
I do, yeah, sorry.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah. So June, we could easily just say by next week, we change it to August or September. Or we at least need to know how much time frame we have. From a new ordinance, it's still going to have to do a first reading, a second reading before it gets changed. So this really is going to be March?
May.
And
Yeah, the other issue is, if you're going to go ahead, there's a lot of other stuff that has to happen.
Well, my concern is just on the council side here is that, we appreciate all the resources and you guys giving us updates and that, but we're going to have to really start figuring out, because I think this is supposed to be originated by council and mayor and council for us to figure out how many, where, what it's going to look like if we do. We're going to have to start going on the discussion to figure that out, I would think, if it's going to happen pretty soon. I just don't know the time frame of if it's just going to come from the city manager and the city, council or city legal. Hey, here's a proposal. I'd rather make sure that we're being very proactive so that we can make the right decision when it comes down there and have some input.
As we typically do, we will bring you, whenever we bring you an ordinance or a policy option, we bring you what others across the state are doing, what is the best practices, and so we hope to be able to gather information about what other communities are doing, what's not working, and bring it back to you. So we will bring you that information, as we always do.
Yeah, I'm just saying on our part, we're also dealing with, if we're going to put something together, it's going to have to affect the planning. Does the planning commission have to go through it? Or do we just say, hey, this is what where we want these zones to be?
For the zoning, it's planning.
So we're going to give direction, have them figure out if they give us the different areas, if they're going to do it and where it will be, and then it comes back to us? Okay.
Well, I think
we don't have a whole lot
it's-
of time.
Well, I certainly think that we will have lots more conversations about this, but right now, today, we don't have the answers. And until we get some of those answers, then we can sit down and discuss what's come forward.
You're members of organizations that deal with these issues, the Michigan League, Michigan Association of whatever, and they're going to keep track of who did what, and you're going to know what the different approaches were. And, obviously what you're going to do is get on the phone and say, how did this work? You're going to talk to people at these conferences. What did it work for you? What would you do differently? Why? That's what's going to have to be done. And that's the benefit of having a little more time. You're going to see different approaches, what worked, what didn't.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. That concludes our agenda for the evening. I do have a couple of announcements. Rockin' on the Rivers concert series continues on Thursday throughout the month of August, so there's 2 more performances, and they've been really good so far, so do go down there. City offices will be closed on Monday, September the 2nd for Labor Day, which sounds terrible. Labor Day?
Yes, it
My
does.
goodness, I think it just started summer. Anyways, and the next regular city council meeting will be September the 9th. There is not a second meeting in August. Is there anything else to come before us tonight?
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Harris?
just one, I just got this in our Union magazine the other day, and it's a result of the food drive. And locally, the National Association Let It Occur Food Drive, which is supported by the city and several others, raised more than 56,000 pounds of food this year.
That's
which is
great.
really good. But what's astounding is the national record was 75,676,000 pounds of food were collected across this country.
That's great.
It's a huge plus for the people of America. So thank you.
Certainly is. Thank you for sharing. Anything else to come before us? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Meeting adjourned.